So the topic we're going on today is all about spring cleaning and decluttering your life, whether that's in the literal sense or more figuratively, and how that can kind of contribute to greater flow states and concentration and everything like that. So yeah, it was kind of an idea that you came up with, and I think now that it's springtime, it is a good time to talk about these things, because it's something people are actually, doing their spring cleaning. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about how that can also contribute to a healthier mind state and more focus and perhaps even flow.
Yeah, for sure. Spring cleaning kind of happens naturally for all of us, whether or not we make it this ritual or whether we just are, we've woken up from the winter and we got to get stuff out of our way to keep moving forward. Or do you practice any sort of traditional spring cleaning, or is it just kind of?
Not really. It just, when it comes to me, I don't have a particular time. Oh, it's spring now. Yeah. I have to do spring cleaning. It's more when I guess the inspiration hits, or I definitely find that keeping things decluttered really does help with focus and my sort of mental at ease. And so I do try to incorporate it, probably not as much as I should, but still I do recognize the value in making sure that I make the time, I guess, every couple months to do a deeper sort of spring cleaning, and then keeping it maintained on a regular basis as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I find. I do it more intuitively, and it just so happens to happen in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when I start to get more energy. The sun comes out, and I'm excited to start fresh, if you will. That's how it feels. But I do tend to do it seasonally as well, like you said, every couple months, which is interesting, something to pay attention to, I guess.
So I think a great place to start with this kind of conversation is the actual spring cleaning, and then kind of translating that into, we can look at, I know we were both listening to the Elevate the Globe podcast recently. They had Rob Mack on talking about positivity and how that can contribute to just everything going better in your life. And so let's kind of take a few moments to talk about maybe your spring cleaning strategies, or your decluttering strategies in general. And a lot of my, I guess, recent inspiration of this comes from Marie Kondo, mm-hmm. and the life-changing magic of tidying up. That book was really neat. I'd never read a book on any type of spring clean, or not spring cleaning, but decluttering or tidying up. That was so, I don't know, it was really fun to read, and it's actually now been, I haven't watched it yet, but it's been developed into a Netflix series.
Right, yeah.
So have you read that book, or do you know anything about, I think it's called the Marie Kondo method?
I haven't read the book, but I've all my friends have, so I've kind of leached the information off of them and felt like I read it for free. But yeah, that book got a lot of excitement, and it was interesting to see a lot of people excited about cleaning up. So essentially, for those who don't know her method, and you can correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but for instance, speaking of wardrobe, if you want to declutter your wardrobe, you're going to take everything out of your closet, you're going to put it in one giant pile on the floor or bed or wherever you're putting it, and you're going to go through each piece of clothing one by one, ask yourself whether or not it brings you joy, and then if it does, you put it back in your closet. If it doesn't, it goes to donation or wherever you are putting your clothes from there. So that's her method there. I wanted to get on board with this method so bad, just bullet journaling, these trendy things. I was like, I'm gonna do this, and these two things don't resonate with me, and I wish they did. However, I really liked Marie Kondo's method in the sense that it's bringing up the idea of just conscious purging. You have to actually go through each article of clothing or whatever you're purging, furniture, cleaning supplies, whatever you've got. And you have to really think about its purpose in your life. And so for me, the reason I'm not super connected to Marie Kondo's method is I've been brought up from such a young age to not be materialistic. And so looking at a t-shirt and asking if it brings me joy, I'm like, I don't know. It's a shirt. It serves a purpose. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to look at this and change the language to suit me. So if joy is not the right word for me, what I've been using is, does this serve me? Or is it just dead weight? So I look at things, if I'm purging physical things or emotional things, does this serve me or is it weighing me down? And that's how I've used her method.
Cool.
So that's how I use it for, spring cleaning in my house, that kind of thing. So in a way I still subscribe to it, but I've just kind of tweaked it to make it make sense for me.
I think that's a great way to go about doing it, because it does sound kind of funny in concept when you're like, part of the whole practice is, you're asking if something sparks joy.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it doesn't, you're supposed to thank it for a job well done and sort of send it on its way. And I think, I don't know, it's kind of, it's not something that I would probably really do either. I kind of approach it more from that mindful perspective too, which is part of, even like you mentioned, the bullet journal. Like it's being mindful with your to-do list and asking yourself if each piece of, or each task that you have to do has its purpose in your current life, and whether you need to just sort of send it on its way and scratch it off the list because it's not as important as maybe you thought it was when you originally wrote it down. And the same thing with the clothing. Like, just ask yourself if it, or any item, ask yourself if it's still serving its purpose. You don't necessarily have to give it a farewell. I think she's adopted that technique, and it seems to be working for everybody that like really subscribes to her methodology, because then some people kind of have guilt over getting rid of things, whatever they are, and by actually sort of thanking it and sending us on its way, it eliminates some of that guilt or that feeling like you've lost out on it, because you've acknowledged really deeply in your heart that you've actually made the most use out of it, and that it's done it and served its purpose. So I think I've actually made a note about the order of objects, which we can then kind of go in to maybe how that relates to like the people, places, things, other things in our lives that kind of relates more to the mindset aspect of this tidying up and spring cleaning. So she actually has a specific order that you're supposed to go through with tidying up, and like you said, clothes are actually the first thing. So exactly, you gather all the clothes in your house, no matter where it is, whether it's in your front closet, depending on how many places you have, like where you're stashing stuff, all of your dressers, everything goes in a big pile, and then you start to sort it from there, not by location, because if you do that, you end up apparently, or it makes sense to me, you start to reallocate things to new parts of your house before you actually finish up tidying up. So then things
Sweep it under the rug kind of situation.
So with all the different categories, that's something to keep in mind. Is she suggests collecting them all in one place and then discarding from there. So it goes in the order. It goes clothes, then you want to do your books, then papers, miscellany, which would be, like office supplies, pens, anything else, and then mementos would be the last one, because they tend to be the hardest to part with. And so after you've kind of gone through this process of tidying things from easiest to most difficult, hopefully you can like acknowledge which mementos are the ones that you do truly want to keep, that still spark joy in your life, and which ones you want to like discard of and think that they've served their purpose. So the I like that idea. It kind of, for me personally, having books second in the list is hard, because like none of the books I want to part with. So
those are your mementos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So but that's okay. That's kind of part of that, goes a lot into her method, and the minimalists that subscribe to the whole Marie Kondo method, they talk about how whatever your memento is, or whatever thing is sort of your focal point of what identifies you. So if books are really important to you, you should have as many books as you want. It's just you discard everything else that's not as significant in your life and well-being.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is all, I feel like I'm just getting a little bit of a therapy lesson from you because as I've told you off camera and off mic that I'm definitely in a period of purging right now, so I'm interested to hear, especially the memento stuff, like the opinions on that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately if your books bring you joy, then Marie says keep them. So I'd say that's okay. And if they do serve a purpose for you, then it's good. I find it interesting you bring up the word guilt earlier about getting rid of things. And to me, that just brought up a thought of like, you know, that one article of clothing that someone gifted you that like you're not gonna wear, but you keep it in your closet for like 2-3 years and then you purge it because the guilt, you know, airs out and then it's gone. That's an interesting conundrum I've been faced with a lot. Someone who doesn't purchase many of my own clothes. I wait for holidays and birthdays to get them. And some of them they're not for me. And I've had a hard time getting rid of them because of that. But if I'm using my method, it's adding dead weight to my closet. So what I've tried to do is think about my gratitude for someone giving me a gift is separate from the actual gift itself. Like the exchange, I find, it's like this, like I am so grateful that you've thought of me and that you've wanted to, you know, contribute something into my life. And that in itself is the gift for me. Like that's beautiful. Thank you. The material, and this is part of my upbringing too, just the material is not necessarily the important part. So that's how I've tried to escape the guilt from it. The hard part is, you know, when your mom comes in and she's like, where's that shirt I bought you? And it's not there. That's a little tricky to navigate, but you get over that.
Cool. Yeah, I actually I've got a method for dealing with that because it's something, you know, I've grown out of many shirts and much clothing over the years, and in order to, like, there's, like you said, there's those pieces that you got as gifts or that you really do like a lot, but if it's serving no purpose as clothes, my hard part was like, oh, but I still like the look of it. So what I did was actually set up an Evernote folder that's called my like memory box, and I'll take a photo of that shirt or whatever it is that I'm getting rid of, and at least then I still have that visual of it. And so then I can get rid of it because it's no longer serving its material purpose, but I've still got the memento of it in a way that's just like digitally stored, so that, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit more permanent, I guess, than if you just try to store it in your mind, but it's like taking a snapshot of it of some sort and then storing it that way because it's just taking up less clutter.
Cluttering up the clouds instead. That's really interesting. I've never thought of it that way, and that, to me, like that, like you said, that it's not serving its material purpose, and if you've never worn it, it never has. So if the photo helps you kind of remember that exchange or that gift, and that keeps you kind of, I don't know, in that, you know, it's so nice that someone thought of me state, then cool. Yeah, that's an interesting, I've never thought of that.
It's worth a shot if you've got anything that you think needs to be decluttered in that way.
Interesting.
So there's another topic or another concept idea that I actually really liked from her book that I think starts to shift this conversation to the next segment is the idea that, so I don't do this perfectly as like an athlete myself, but the idea there encourages me to want to do it more. Is she mentions how athletes store their gear with reverence, and that they often, you know, hang up their jerseys at the end of the day. Like an athlete that's sort of embodying more of this practice, they're not leaving it like in their sweaty gym bag at the end of the day. They're putting it away and thanking it for a job well done. And that's sort of with whether you're getting rid of things, or I think if you actually apply that more to anything in your life and sort of are mindful about how it does its job for you, whether it's a person, a place, or a thing, and you acknowledge whether it's doing a job well done for you, that it makes it easier then to declutter in a lot of ways, because you know whether you're calling it sparking joy or whether it's just serving its purpose, that you can kind of move on with grace from it.
It's interesting. I like your perspective, because I'm like, oh no. This is gonna, like, this for me, I'm in a phase where I'm doing this emotionally right now, just things that don't serve me or things that do, and you know, keeping the belief patterns or the thought patterns that I can actually revere, and then ditching the ones that I can't. And what's happening is all these things are coming up that I didn't know was dead weight in me. And so that makes me nervous in a good way. It's like cleaning is messy. I think that's what I have to realize. And I know that seems kind of...
Well, I think that's why she talks about putting everything in a pile. It is messy.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of realize how messy it is in order to appreciate how much clutter that you've got to clear out.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to find out a lot of things that you either didn't know about yourself, or you didn't know you had, or you didn't know was, you know, bringing you down. Which is a really awesome thing, as long as you don't beat yourself up for it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting.
Well, I think that's, and that ties into realizing, or the important point here is, once you get through that physical decluttering or even emotional decluttering, that's where you've got more headspace, more calm and more focus even, and you can kind of become more at peace in your mind. So that's sort of this interesting topic that we were just finding out more about from this guy Rob Mack, who's a positive psychologist, and the idea that people who are more happy and relaxed actually are more successful. So that was... It makes sense after listening to him talk about it and sharing his knowledge about that, and some of the anecdotes, like how Prince says "just be cool" is how he got so successful. It's all about, if you can be more relaxed and kind of remember whether you're practicing gratitude or doing things. Basically, if your life has been set up to make you more happy, it tends to, there's a clear correlation there that it leads to more success.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting like a mental picture of, if we're talking flow state, like let's talk water. And it flows most efficiently through a straight path or through a clear path. And so if there's all these jagged rocks in the way or just blockages in some capacity, there's going to be some pressure buildup, and it's going to be pretty slow on the other side of that pressure buildup. And that maybe is a representation of all this, you know, worry or anxiety or physical clutter that's just in your way, that's not letting you get to where you want to go.
Totally.
Yeah. And so that, I'm trying to think of this, I'm trying to extend this metaphor maybe further than it's supposed to go, but...
go for it, yeah.
I'm just thinking that, you know, a steady stream is better than rushing rapids. So having that, like, just be cool, just relax, gives you the ability to be consistent long term. And, you know, we both train, so we can talk about that in fitness. Like, if you're going to go into the gym and you're going to give like 100% for a workout, you're not going to be able to move the next day.
No.
So I've heard it said, and this is something I subscribe to as a trainer, I need to be able to move so I can show people how to move. So I cannot gas myself all the time.
Oh yeah, totally.
I usually tell my clients and myself 70% all the time is better than 100% once, right? So that's the idea of the rapids, you know, that's the 100% go crazy, it's fun, it's exciting, but then like we're tired, we're done. Whereas the stream, like in the long term, we're going to get further. We're going to be, you know, we're going to see results better. We're going to get to our goals. We have clear vision of where we're headed, and that's really important. And so I think that ties into all this stuff of even physical stuff. If you've got, you know, clutter in your house that's in the way and you can't walk through your house without being like, ugh, stuff's in my way, that's not serving your mindset.
No, it's not. Or thinking, like some people, I don't really believe this is true. Some people say that they work better with like a cluttered, messy desk, but if you've got a clear workspace, it's more conducive to a clear mind space to do whatever creative or deep work that you need to get into. And deep work is the flow state, just rephrased by Cal Newport for his purposes in his book and everything. But it is in essence the same thing as being in a state of flow for that work that's meaningful and that you're passionate about. So it goes in, it's embodied physically and also like in your mental space, whatever's like creative. I imagine even somebody that's like trying to play music on the piano, if there's a ton of papers on the piano, it's probably going to be more distracting than if you've just got that single sheet that you're working with. Or if you're in like basically anything like that that's trying to be creative or productive, having a clear physical space leads more to a clear mental space as well.
Totally.
And also, with training as well, I find that to be the case. Like, lots of people obviously go to the gym to burn off the steam or to get rid of their anger, anxiety, whatever, the hurt inside of them. But if you go into training and you've got a clear mind state and you don't push it, like you said, to 100% all the time, but even throughout your full training session, you could get to 100% effort on a few reps or a few sets, but then if you back off and kind of go with the flow for the rest of it, I think you're going to get more productivity or more results out of those intense sets, as well as like overall you're not going to burn out as quickly, because it's all about that constant flow of recovery that's necessary in order to perform at your best all the time.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying like go 70% all the time, but I am saying, preserve your energy so that when you have to give 100%, or when you're going for, if you're in the gym, you're going for a PR, or you're at your strongman competition or whatever, like, you need the energy for that.
Yeah, you've got the energy because you haven't burnt yourself out every single time.
Exactly. And so that's that kind of, we'll say, conscious purging or conscious understanding of yourself in general of like what's efficient. And that's all of this ultimately I think we can boil down to is efficiency, right? Like, where are we going? How can we get there in the smoothest path? And how can I help myself get there? Save your energy.
Save your energy. And also, it's like one of the tactics or one of the strategies you can use is just being present more often throughout the day, I think, leads you to acknowledging when you're like going too hard. So that was something that was also brought up in that podcast, but I don't know so he talked about it, he called it micro meditations, and I didn't like that term. I think it's like he's trying to create like a new fad term with that, but all it is being present in the moment or being mindful. But they were really digging the whole idea of a micro meditation being like a minute of breathing or whatever. But that's just, in my opinion, that's just the same as just being mindful.
Totally. I think maybe he's just going for a PhD, right? We gotta make up our own term. But yeah, I mean, he's just talking about reeling it in, right? You're having a moment, take a second. Like, practice conscious relaxation or mindfulness or presence. Like, that's all he means by that throughout the day. If we want to call it a micro meditation, do it. But I think what he means by that is for that 1 second, he actually just says one breath, not even 1 minute.
Right.
So for that one breath, be in yourself. So it's not just like, oh, I'm mindful of my surroundings. I'm feeling the air go into my lungs, and then I'm feeling them go out, and I'm grateful for that. Bam, let's keep going with the day. So, and that, like, here, let's do it right now all together. So he was saying, like, take your breath as if it's the last breath you'll ever breathe. So you want to savor it. You want to make it feel good. You want to make it long. You want to make it big. Breathe it right into your belly. And so when I've since listening to this podcast, actually, I have been practicing micro meditations, if I can say that word. Mindfulness. I've been like more conscious of it. I've definitely done it throughout my day, but I've definitely been more conscious since listening to that podcast. So I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I like to close my eyes and get into it, and then nice big inhale through my nose. And then exhale through my nose. And for some reason I end up smiling here. And I think that's just the practice of gratitude coming out.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that, like, even right now, do you feel that? Or am I, like, being hokey about it?
No, I feel it.
It's nice, right?
It
It's
is
nice
nice
to just be like, for a second, I'm here. We're
Yeah.
just being cool.
It's
We're just being Prince.
Yeah. It's a good reset as well.
Exactly.